When studying the ancient Babylonian creation myth called the Enuma Elish, do we come across striking similarities held between this Babylonian account of creation with the biblical story of creation as outlined in the book of Genesis. Both stories involve the separation of waters, with the biblical account describing the division between upper and lower waters, whereas the Babylonian story describes the creation of the sky and earth from the dismembered body of the goddess Tiamat. Both the Babylonian and biblical narratives also include the creation of celestial bodies like the sun, moon, and stars. However, while the biblical story is monotheistic, focusing on one god, the Babylonian myth features a pantheon of gods, such as the central figure of the male deity Marduk, for example. The Genesis account emphasizes the creation of a world that is suitable for humanity, while the Enuma Elish focuses on establishing Marduk's dominance over creation and the divine order. In Genesis, God is presented as a holy and all-powerful creator, while the Babylonian gods are depicted as more fickle individuals whom engage in petty conflicts and power struggles. Despite these differences, the overall parallel shared between the Enuma Elish and the Bible suggests a cultural continuity in the ancient Near East as related to certain ideas about the origins of the world and mankind's beginnings. In the ancient Sumerian creation poem Enki and Ninhursag, it is related how the god Enki falls ill with a sickness in one of his ribs. In response to Enki's suffering, the goddess Ninti is created in order to heal Enki's rib. Now what is important to be aware of here is that the Sumerian word for rib is Ti, making the name of the goddess Ninti meaning the lady of the rib. Additionally, the Sumerian word Ti also means life. Therefore, the name Ninti may also mean lady of life. This ancient Sumerian wordplay is very striking when compared to the biblical story of the creation of Eve, the first woman, whom God formed from the rib of Adam, the first man. It is also critical to comprehend how Adam called the woman who was formed from his rib by the name Eve, a word which means life. However, though the words for rib and life are the same in Sumerian, their meanings are not interchangeable in Hebrew, the language that the biblical creation account was originally written in. But the fact that there is a continuity between a man's rib and its relationship to the concept of life, which is a constant theme held between ancient Sumerian myths and the biblical narrative, demonstrates how early men may have indeed been aware of the origins of humanity and creation long before the Bible was ever written. Continuing with the Sumerian myth, Enki and Ninhursag, do we discover another biblical parallel. For the ancient Babylonian tablets speak of an earthly paradise, very similar to the story of the Garden of Eden as found in the biblical book of Genesis. The Sumerian paradise is described as a pure, clean, and bright, semi-divine garden. Being completely bereft of illness, suffering, and death, it is known as the land of the living. The location of the Sumerian paradise, known as Dilmun, may be originally set in the island nation of Bahrain, which is situated in the Persian Gulf just off the southwestern coast of Iran. However, some scholars suggest that Dilmun may have been located in the eastern parts of Saudi Arabia or even Kuwait. This location would correspond to the biblical paradise described as a garden planted in the east, with one of the rivers flowing out of Eden identified as the Euphrates, which is a river known today that encompasses the modern country of Iraq, historically known as Mesopotamia. The Sumerian tablets go on to illustrate how the sun god Utu brought up a spring of pure water from the earth to water Dilmun. This factor is very similar to the creation story in the Bible, where it is written how God also brought up a mist from the earth to water the ground. See Genesis chapter 2, verses 5 and 6. The fact that two ancient sources, such as the Babylonian tablets and the Holy Bible, both speak of a lush garden planted in the east at the dawn of history, may provide the evidence to suggest that a divine being was indeed responsible for the creation of the world, and negates the atheists who say that there is no God. In another epic Sumerian poem titled Enmerkar and the Lord of Aratta, a tale is told of a happy time long ago when all men lived in harmony with one another and where all the people worshipped only one God, Enlil. However, though everyone in this ancient civilization worshipped the same God, there were also other deities recognized in their cosmology, such as the god Enki, for example. Ultimately, Enki became jealous of all the attention directed towards Enlil, so Enki sought to disrupt this golden epoch of man by sowing discord among the earth's inhabitants. It must also be addressed that according to this Sumerian story, The people of Arata not only worshiped the same God, but they also spoke the same language. For in addition to bringing about wars and conflicts between humankind, Enki went on to confuse the languages of all the people, very much like the story of the Tower of Babel found written in the Bible. See Genesis chapter 11, verses 3 through 9. Like Arata, most scholars are of the opinion that the Tower of Babel is a mythical story. However, though the land of Arata is believed to be mythical, it has been suggested that its geographical setting may have been based on parts of the Zagros region in Iran or placed within the eastern borders of Mesopotamia. This possible location for Arata is also in the vicinity of where the biblical Tower of Babel is set, namely the plain of Babylon in the land of Shinar. See Genesis chapter 11, verse 2. Thus, according to the narratives and settings of both the Sumerian Arata and the biblical Babel, are we provided with a time and a place for the origins of ancient man. In conclusion, both the Babylonian and biblical creation stories offer fascinating insights into the ancient world's understanding of the origins of humanity, as well as mankind's place within the cosmic order. While the Enuma Elish Babylonian and Genesis biblical stories differ significantly in their details and theological perspectives, they also share some interesting points of connection which may give credence to their belief that an all-powerful and holy God did indeed create the universe and all life forms within it, including human beings. I would also like to argue that the authors of the Bible didn't necessarily copy or borrow stories found in older Babylonian writings which predate the Bible, but rather these biblical scribes continued in the story of creation that was a common understanding of the people in the ancient Near East. Just as the Sumerian creation stories may seem archaic due to the many gods and their flawed characters who were responsible for mankind's inception, the Bible, on the other hand, may be viewed as an advanced account of creation due to the radical belief that there is only one God and that man was originally created in the image and after the likeness of this one holy and loving God. Therefore, it is the nature of the divinities that are the most striking dichotomies held between the Babylonian and biblical versions of creation. So in the final analysis, it could be argued that polytheism is primitive, whereas monotheism is progressive. This is the leap of faith.